Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Peachy. It's Friday.
Indeed.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine. Get ready to go to school. 2 more weeks. Done.
2 more weeks of
Ano-
school and you're done?
Yeah, another graduating class of engineers where I've done my best to contaminate their minds
It's
to send
important to
them out in
challenge
the
people.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Send them out in the marketplace. My
Hey,
foreign
Nick.
kids, yeah,
Hey,
having a
Bob.
tough time. Yeah, hey.
Hey, Nick, you're still at it, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. How you doing, Bob?
I'm good.
The my foreign kids are having a hell of a time. They're just so stressed. They get 60 days to find a job or they got to leave the country. And they used to have this thing called the OPT permit that you could apply for that would give you up to a year in the country before you had to go back. But the government's slow rolling it. So what's happening to these kids is they can't get their OPT in time and they're left with either staying and being illegal and never having the chance to come back or leaving and hoping that they could come back, which is, slim to none as it sets today. So they have a tremendous amount of additional stress that's really just a tragedy, for these kids. And then the engineering companies aren't really putting the additional effort forth to hire these international kids. They used to, but they're just not that motivated to deal with it anymore. So it's a sad situation for academia and for these kids. We spent 5 years training them and developing them, and then I don't know, and I don't know what happens.
All right. Well, it's 9:15, everybody. So good morning and happy Friday and welcome to the end of week 7 of session. Got 2 more weeks to go on a normal session schedule, but I'm already hearing a lot of chatter about possibly an extended session or a special session to deal with the budget. The word on the street around here is that they're still miles apart on reaching, agreement on a lot of key points of the budget. So that's going to be a factor. Looking out at week 8 schedule, you can see the pattern that's typical for the end of session. Just the last couple of committee meetings of what I call the big committees, rules and fiscal policy in the Senate. They're only meeting on Monday and Tuesday, and then the rest of the week is just House or excuse me, floor um, special order calendar bills. So these are all the bills that are on the floor of the Senate. Um, on the House, it's a similar story. Let me move this thing. Oh, it's always in my way. Uh, the House schedule looks the same. It's just formatted differently. You got no meetings on Monday, some big committee meetings on Tuesday, and then session Wednesday through Friday. I expect next week is going to look pretty similar. I put the updated tracker out again, kind of towards the end of the day yesterday, trying to capture some of the later actions. There were some committees meeting yesterday, so there was some bill action yesterday on this list. If you don't already have it or haven't downloaded it online, I'm sure it'll be up there by the end of the call if it's not already up there. So as with prior weeks reports, I'm going through, based on activity. I've also, like I did last week, kind of drawn a line down here below this red line. I think everything else down here is definitely dead. Of this list, there's a surprising number that are either already passed or are, passed in one chamber and are, just about to be or on the floor in the other chamber. So there's a lot of these that are really teed up to be presented to the governor, provided, that the budget doesn't, blow everything up and all these things die because they can't get agreement on budget, which I guess could theoretically happen. So just start from the top here. And I've also organized this week to put the bill companions together. It was just driving me crazy having to bounce back and forth between the House and Senate version. So up here on top is DAX. This is the Department of Agriculture, general bill, but the provision in here that put it on this tracker is the ban on fluoride or really any other amendments, health-based amendments in drinking water supply, but they were targeting fluoride. That has already passed the Senate. The Senate version is in messages in the House, which means it's on the House floor. For consideration. So the House version 651 is laid on the table, and the Senate version SB 700 is on the House floor. Like I said, it has already passed the Senate, and it is waiting to be heard in the House on the floor. State land management is kind of in the opposite situation. It has passed the House. It is in the third stop in the Senate. So they referred the House bill to the Fiscal Policy Committee. They are meeting next week on Tuesday, I believe. Don't know if it's been calendared on that committee, but this has a bunch of little things for state parks and Division of State Land. So, look in there if you're interested in those types of topics. The Brownfields bill has passed the House and is referred to the Senate in messages, and it is on the Senate floor. Both versions of the bill are in the same form, so it's teed up for passage. Mitigation banks has passed the House and is on the Senate version is in two different bills. They're going to have to do something to make these things match. The Senate version has a mitigation banks bill 492, and then it has a release of conservation easements 1142. Together, those two bills make up the House version 1175. So they're going to have to do a little bit of cutting and pasting and attach those things together. It's on the mitigation banks is on the third stop in rules in the Senate, and it is scheduled on that committee meeting on Monday. I suspect we'll see some action on that committee to bring in 1142 or the provisions of 1142, the conservation easement provisions, and amend it on to 492. And then that will put the Senate version in line with the House version and take it to the floor. The other bill, 1142, is also on its third stop in the Senate, but there's no activity next week. So I think that's probably what they're going to do. Also, that release of conservation easements bill really hasn't moved at all since March. So I think they're going to amend it all together at the Rules Committee on Monday, and then you'll have a mitigation bill on the floor in the Senate as soon as next week. So this bill, we've talked about it in the past, but just to recap, because there's some interesting nuggets in here. Notably, it allows developers to purchase mitigation credits outside of this mitigation bank service area where their project is located if there are no mitigation credits inside that service area. And to go outside, you have to pay a premium or pay more than the required amount or provide more mitigation than the required amount. But that aligns it with a federal policy that allows you to do the same thing with federal wetland credits. Moving on down here, the recycling bills they were not moving for a while, and then all of a sudden, moved pretty quickly. The House version has passed, and so it is in messages with the Senate, and is on the third stop in the Senate Fiscal Policy Committee, which is meeting on Tuesday. So there's a chance for the recycling bill to make it through. I think that is probably its last chance, is to get on that fiscal policy schedule next week and get heard. So not a slam dunk, but still looking okay. The drilling bills are interesting. The House version has passed. The House version is being described in the media. If you're following this is, bans or significantly increases the requirements on drilling in the Apalachicola Basin. The House version actually prohibits it. The Senate version just imposes more requirements on it. So they are not aligned yet. The Senate version is on the floor. The House version has already passed. So if that thing is going to move, it's got to get some amendments on it. So stay tuned on that if you are following that bill for floor action next week. Administrative procedures is the bill that updates the requirements for the statement of estimated regulatory costs when you're doing rulemaking that requires ratification. It has passed the last committee in the House and is headed to the floor. That happened yesterday. So, nothing's happening today. Everybody's off for Good Friday, but next week it could be up for a floor vote. And the Senate version has already passed the Senate. So that looks like it's teed up for passage. The former phosphate mining lands kind of liability relief bill, that has continued to chug along. It's getting some no votes, but it has passed the Senate, and it is on the third and final stop in the House. And as I mentioned at the outset, there is one more State Affairs Committee, at least one more. They could possibly meet the last week, but normally they don't. But there's at least one more State Affairs Committee next week. So that bill has a chance of going through. The distributed wastewater treatment system bill has passed the Senate and is on second reading on the floor in the House. That looks pretty good. The waste incineration bill, this is the one that prohibits the waste to energy facility in Miami-Dade County, among other things. But it's on the floor of the House, and the Senate companion 1822 is also on the Senate floor. So that looks pretty good. The water management district bills, which we've talked about a lot over these calls, this has passed the Senate, is in messages with the House, and is on the last committee stop in the House on state affairs. So this is one of those bills that could likely be horse traded in a budget negotiation. So I think that's the reason why it's being held in that last committee. So the House Speaker can negotiate for some budget concession that he's looking for from the Senate President. I think is likely why it's in that last stop. Stormwater management systems, we talked about this a few times. This bill 810 is the one that requires MS4s to conduct an O&M inspection each year by June 1 and deliver the results of that inspection to the Division of Emergency Management. It's been pushed back against by the Florida Stormwater Association, League of Cities, those types of folks that see it as an unfunded mandate, which it is. But it is also something that they should be doing anyway. Just requires them to show the results of their inspections. But anyway, I didn't mean to opine on it, but it's on the floor of the Senate. It's still in kind of a weird situation. That language appears in a standalone bill 810. That has made it all the way to the floor. That language is also in an emergency preparedness, a DEM bill, SB 810, that is completely passed the Senate. My opinion is that 810 is not going to go anywhere else. That 180, which again has that same language, is already passed the Senate, is in messages with the House. And then the closest companion, really the companion bill for 180 is 1535. It is also on the floor of the House. It has not passed, but it does not contain that same MS4 stormwater language. So the opportunity for that stormwater language to make it through is to have it amended on to 1535 on the floor of the House, have it passed by the House, and at that point, 180 and 1535 will match, and that could be presented to the governor. So if you care about that issue and you're following that issue, that's the path forward for that particular MS4 requirement. The Springs restoration bills, which Bill Connolly is running in the House, that's on the floor of the House. The Senate version has already passed the Senate. This changes the AWT requirements inside Springs priority focus areas. There's some provisions in there on reclaimed water. So if those topics are of interest to you, do check out those bills. They look pretty good for getting through this year. Water access facilities is the Clean Marine Manufacturer Facility Bill. It's got a couple of little tweaks in there for waterfront facilities. It has passed the House, and the Senate companion 1162 is on the floor. So that looks pretty well teed up. The One Water approach to integrated water resource management, that is on the last stop in the House. On the Senate, it was added to the journal. This is just a resolution. It's not a policy bill. I don't know how much room they have left in state affairs, and this one may end up just not quite making it all the way through. But it could go through in state affairs. It is just a resolution, so it could happen pretty quickly. So there's still a chance for that. The last one on here before you get to the death list is the nature-based methods for coastal resilience. There's some flood hub stuff in here, a few things on green and gray infrastructure design. There's a few nuggets in here besides just the living shorelines stuff, but there's also some living shorelines permitting stuff in here. Do look at this if any of those topics are of interest to you. The Senate version, SB 50, has already passed and is in messages with the House. The House companion is on the floor, so that looks pretty good. It's been on the floor a long time and hasn't made it through. Hasn't been passed through yet. There is an appropriation in here, by the way, so that may be the reason, is that the appropriation bills haven't been aligned yet. So this may be just stuck until that happens. All right, so now the rest of this, I'll just maybe skip it unless somebody has questions, but you got a lot of bills in here that, one or the other companion hasn't moved at all, or the bills have never even been heard. So down here at the bottom are some bills that haven't even been heard. So that's my report for the week. Anybody have any questions? I knew it was thorough and comprehensive, so I wasn't expecting any questions.
Hey, Jeff, this is Mark Meckling.
Yes,
I had a
sir.
question. I missed last week's call, but I looked at this week's legislative report online. And what's the status of the Senate bill and House bill regarding professional regulation for engineers?
So, Mark, I have an idea of what's going on because I was on the one of our legislative committee calls yesterday. That is on our general bill discussion for that's coming up right after this. I think it starts at 10. So we don't cover that in environment.
That's
And
correct.
I'm sorry to be bureaucratic like that.
Well, I'm not going to be able to make that call. So could you give me a quick rundown?
Yeah, our team, our lobbying team is doing everything it can to keep, FEMAC and, the Board of Professional Engineers out of the crosshairs of the Doge, kind of the Doji movements that are in play this year. And I think we're probably looking pretty good, but bless you, whoever that was. But we won't know until the dust settles.
Okay, thanks.
John Johnson and Alan, the whole lobbying team is working on that. Other than me, since I'm the environmental nerd.
I heard the meeting went very well. My kid was there.
Okay, good. I haven't been watching the bill directly. I've just been listening on to the reports of the lobby team. Any other questions? It's Stump the Chump time.
Jeff, this is
Nick?
JW Hunter.
Yeah, hey, JW.
Can you give me a call when we get done? I want to relay a conversation I have with Bill Connerly to you.
Yes, sir. Will do. Nick, I did hear that the PFAS kick the can down the road plan is in the Senate implementation bill, budget implementation bill. For all you PFAS followers out there, that would extend the deadline by 1 year for the department to promulgate state standards for soil and groundwater for PFAS. And that extension is really needed until the feds figure out what they're going to do on PFAS standard. All right, well, I don't want to keep anybody longer than they want to stay on this call. So I'll give you 15 minutes back, and I hope everybody has a wonderful Easter weekend. And we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks,
Same to you.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you.